Philosophy begins with Thales, who fortunately can be dated by the fact that he predicted an eclipse which, according to the astronomers, occurred in the year 585 BC. Philosophy and science, which were not originally separate, were therefore born together at the beginning of the 6th century. What had been happening in Greece and neighboring countries before this time, any answer must be, in part, conjectural, but archaeology during the present century has given us more knowledge than was possessed by our grandfathers. The art of writing was invented in Egypt around about the year 4000 BC, in Babylonia not much later. In each country, writing began with pictures of the objects intended. These pictures quickly became conventionalized so that words were represented by ideograms, as they still are in China. In the course of thousands of years, this cumbrous system developed into alphabetical writing. The early development of civilization in Egypt and Mesopotamia was due to the Nile, the Tigris, and the Euphrates, which made agriculture very easy and very productive. The civilization, in many ways similar to that which the Spaniards found in Mexico and Peru. There was a divine king with despotic powers. In Egypt he owned all the land. There was a polytheistic religion with a supreme god, to whom the king had a specially intimate relation. There was a military aristocracy and also a priestly aristocracy. The latter was often able to encroach on the royal power if the king was weak or if he was engaged in a difficult war. The cultivators of the soil were serfs, belonging to the king, the aristocracy, or the priesthood. There was a considerable difference between Egyptian and Babylonian theology. The Egyptians were preoccupied with death and believed that souls of the dead descended into the underworld, where they were judged by Osiris according to the manner of their life on earth. They thought that the soul, which would ultimately return to the body, This led to mummification and to the construction of splendid tombs. The pyramids were built by various kings at the end of the 4th millennium BC and the beginning of the 3rd. After this time, Egyptian civilization became more and more stereotyped, and religious conservatism made prodigious progress impossible. About 1800 BC, Egypt was conquered by Semites named Hyksos, who ruled the country for about 2 centuries. They left no permanent mark on Egypt, but their presence there must have helped the spread of Egyptian civilization in Syria and Palestine. Babylonia had a more warlike development than Egypt. At first, the ruling race were not the Semites, but Sumerians, whose origin is unknown. They invented cuneiform writing, which the conquering Semites took over from them. There was a period when there were various independent cities which fought with each other, but in the end Babylon became supreme and established an empire. The gods of other cities became subordinate, and Marduk, the god of Babylon, acquired a position like that later held by Zeus in the Greek pantheon. The same sort of thing happened in Egypt, but at a much earlier time. The religions of Egypt and Babylonia, like other ancient religions, were originally fertility cults. The earth was female, the sun male. The bull was usually regarded as an embodiment of male fertility, and bull gods were common. In Babylon, Ishtar, the earth goddess, was supreme among female divinities. Throughout Western Asia, the Great Mother was worshipped under various names. When Greek colonists in Asia Minor found temples to her, they named her Artemis and took over the existing cult. This is the origin of Diana of Ephesians. Footnote: Diana was the Latin equivalent of Artemis. It is Artemis who is mentioned in the Greek Testament, where our translation speaks of Diana. End of footnote. Christianity transformed her into the Virgin Mary, and it was a council at Ephesus that legitimized the title Mother of God, as applied to Our Lady. Where religion was bound up with the government of an empire, political motives did much transform primitive features. A god or goddess became associated with the state, and had to give not only an abundant harvest but victory.